feel of who they are talking to.
Sure.
I'd actually love that maybe they'll put on the videos as they introduce themselves, but it's okay, so that we don't assume we are talking to the ghost somewhere. But it's at one point I also put up my videos so that I take advantage of the bandwidth from my side also, because when you're working with this Wi-Fi, sometimes if you put on the video, sometimes it keeps on fluctuating and it will not be quite right. Thank you for your kind introduction, David. I'm really looking forward to interacting with the team here at a quick overview of your website, and it looks fantastic. So I feel humbled to invite me to talk to my fellow men. It's something that I enjoy talking to ourselves to know how do we journey this together. And that does not mean that I don't talk to across, like David said, apart from my teaching career in chemistry, I also do a lot of mentorship. And this afternoon we're hosting Jomo Kenyatta, my former university, class to just take them through what we do as a university at the Chendaria Center Innovation and Incubation Center. So I'd been asked to talk about something that is quite novel. It's quite managing societal expectations and playing the role of a man in the society. And I'm sure that on this platform, all boys, my son calls everyone, if it's not a girl, it's a boy. So I will imagine that with this background, we actually know what's expected of us. We've been brought up in a society where men have been defined and ladies have been defined. So with that background, I thought it's good for me to begin from a background where I request you guys to do a quick survey of just listening for me. I don't know how best we can do this, whether it's a chat or I can share the Menti. Maybe if you allowed me, David, to share the screen.
Let me give you the rights right away.
Okay, thank you.
Now you can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So I'll share this. Okay. Maybe if we look at that, and then I present this, the password. So if you just type menti.com, and then you put this password 3115 in the search bar URL, you just type menti.com, and then you put the password. And then we just want to see where do we want to start from in terms, so the definition of this will be working together, the talking and chatting forward, and then we'll have a session where you can ask questions. I wouldn't promise that I have all the answers, but we'll try and see how that works out. The password, thank you, David, for reposting it. Fine. Hello? I'm still in the office kidogo tu. I'll call you back. Thank you. So I'm waiting for the answers. I can see someone has posted lead, protect, provide. You guys are amazing. Okay, to be the provider, financially stable, to be strong, provide. This is quite amazing because we actually already have an idea of what a man is supposed to do. but we'll be asking ourselves a very serious question. I can see financially stable is the key word, that mwanaume ni pesa, which is quite a state-of-art thing that we do. So each one of us seems to be, provider seems to be quite cutting across the different roles. And that actually explains the position, provide. You can see it's provide, provide, provide. So each one of us has a way of doing things. I can see also cases of procreate. I think that's something debatable now that we have YouTube babies. So there are lots of sperm donors in this world today. So these are things that we can actually think slightly better in terms of what we're looking for. So, but you can see that if you look at the keywords here, provide kind of takes the preeminence, and we'll be looking at provide, protect, and how do we, as a people, men in the 21st century, would want to believe. But the question we really want to answer is, there are only 5 people have responded. I'm sure we were 10, so please, if you still have time to I'll share this with the team, so just be able to post as you want. Okay, I'll stop sharing that so that we can move to something else. Okay, so I can use the slides which I posted, and then at this point, because I'm loading the slide, I can turn this off. I'll use the slide just as a guide to help me to go through what I thought would be one of the most important aspects and the role that man was given. My name has an MRS, so I belong to the Royal Society of Chemistry, which is a professional body of chemists and is based in the UK, where I undertook my studies. So I qualify to have additions of my name. It's not HS, but I think it makes me happy to know that I belong to the member group of chemists in this world. So this is how I hope to take this story forward. I've been thinking about society. What is a society? Because when you're talking about societal expectations, then my thinking is that we have a society that is sitting behind them. And the society is based on the nature of socialization. How are we socialized? Where do we start our life? And then I'll be moving on to the society expectations, which you've posted. So those are very wonderful, correct answers. But again, we'll be thinking about what different communities consider as the expectations from different men in the society. And then finally, I'll be considering the role of a man in a society. And the society we're referring to in this case is the 21st century society, not the society where I lived in myself. I started with the society, and in my teaching career along the way, I hardly write notes. I use diagrams because of my chemist background and the creativity that I've been brought up to believe in. And so from the diagram, it's explained many words. So I look at the diagram and I'm able to see, are there things that can help me remember? And I can easily identify the total of a number of circles here. And this circles here, each and every single subset has been derived by Venn diagram, and it defines different social roles of a person. So the person who is a man in this case is at the center of everything. But this man at the center of everything is expected to play different roles for different things. Our main focus then at this point will be on the society. What are the societal norms? So the Oxford Dictionary defines a society as a group of people. This is a generation. So you're looking at a group of people who you're able to compare with, and you're able to show this is happening, this is not, and it gives a lot of sense when you think about what a society would be. And our interest in this case would be just think about how do we mean and what do we mean by a society. So if we were to look at the basic definition of a dictionary, then we're able to define a society as an aggregate of people living together in a more or less ordered community. Remember, when we think about a community, in this country now, we're talking about counties, whether the community or a village. We are talking about the city, people in the urban setup. And people in the urban setup will be considered in different levels. There are those who live in high end, there are those who live in areas that are low end, so, and the middle class. So we'll be thinking about what is this social differentiation? How do we fit in as men in the current dispensation? And you can quickly see that there are lots of things that define a man. And a man, again, could be defined by the gender. So the gender has really taken a big toll in global spectrum. So when you look at the global spectrum, yesterday we were all overjoyed. We were so excited, and we were celebrating the first nominee CJ in this country. A few weeks ago, when our neighboring country lost the president, Mama Sulu came on board. And so we are moving in a different direction. Things that we never thought will happen in our society, now we can start thinking that they're happening. And when we thought that the society is male dominated in particular position, it's no longer happening. That the woman is the kitchen and the man goes out to look and provide. When we grew up, it was totally different, where men went out to hunt and brought in food for women to cook. But times have changed. So the society we are looking at is the social differentiation at this part. And this express, I provided the links for you to go back and just look at it. How do we interact in this society? The society has lots of spectrum. So if you consider yourself at the center here, you will be interacting with people just outside your sphere. And the people outside your sphere will define some habits, will define some manners, will define who you become as a man. And I'll be coming to that a bit later to just indicate the significance of the cultural and the environment that we grow up into. So that our first level of interactivity in the process of socialization, as we move up, we are looking at who are we interacting with? Who is this person that is within our environment? And what is this culture that is within my reach? And so as we interact with this, we should be coming up and saying, I have my personal personality, my own personality. But then how do I fit in a wider dimension? And the moment we answer these questions in the correct way, then we get the spectrum of the cultural and the environmental factors that develop a man in us. And therefore, as you stand out, you could remember the words of Jesus when he met the lady at the well. And so he asked this woman and says, do you have a husband? And the lady says a few things, and then the lady runs back to the countryside. And the story continues. The lady, when we go to the countryside in her community, she quickly said, come and see a man who told me everything. Come and see a man. So in this society, when we grow up, when we ourselves, are we identified as men? Would someone look at you and say, come and see a man? I know we are living in a very fluid society where men are also plating, men are doing lots of things, men are wearing skirts, those are skirts in Scotland, and it really doesn't make a difference. So the outer person you is the environment, but the inner you, can people look at you and say, come and see a man? If this can be said of you, then you are in the right direction. What about our socialization? in an environment we grow up, if you look at this picture here, you can see that there is a lead person here, and there are people who are stepping on the stones as they follow by. If you look at the edges, you quickly start thinking about the norms, beliefs of our society. So the society nurtures us. It brings us in a way where we are saying, this is the way I was cultured. There are people, even their eating habits is a product of training from the early years. So we start our socialization by the immediate family members, and these are the agents that will start bringing us first experience. And then we get out and start looking at the peer interactivity. We start interacting with the people we know, the school environment, and of course, as we go to school, we start having an issue where we start learning new things. And in most cases, what you realize is that some of us become a material based on our teachers. So it means that teachers play a very critical role as role models, as leaders that make us. I've just seen the news and I saw the mother to a comment where she was so excited how they prayed, how they thanked God for everything. What is it that you've learned as a person? Who is your role model? And therefore, in this current world, we think about who do we take as a role model? The person who's able to lead the road like this lady in green or the picture in green. So as they step on one stone, the other people know that you cannot step in between the stones, but you have to move a step to step in the other one. So it's passed on step by step, and that allows one to make some deliberate moves. However, as we grow up, we also come to learn there are also things we can learn. This is from the defense, and from the defense aspect is a bit different. You can see the scouts, you can see how they march in uniform, and it takes a lot of training. So what do we want to say? That for one to be man enough, for one to be a man and say, come and see a man, then it requires a lot of dedication. By the time you realize these guys start moving on the same line, hands moving forward and back, there's training and discipline. I was surprised that many of us didn't think about a discipline as a man. So expectations that a man is supposed to be disciplined. A man is supposed to be someone who's firm. And as you think about this discipline, what discipline are you dealing with? Because we are living in a very fluid world where we are thinking, if the society doesn't give us what we need. In fact, one of the scholars has defined this liquid modernity. The liquid modernism. The liquid modernism is where and remember the properties of a liquid. Those of us who are chemist background, we know that a liquid flows. So if you're able to flow, what flows are you moving with? What is it that you're providing to the society? So these are some of the characteristics of a society that we are socialized in a way to become what we want to be in future. And therefore it requires a lot of discipline. It requires a lot of commitment. It requires one who's focused, a financial provider, a protector, someone who look at things and say, this is a man and I'm able to provide this. These are the things that we look at and say, yes, we've achieved. Yes, we've done it. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can. Like many other people will be able to appreciate a number of things that will have worked out. But as I said, if this has to happen, then there must be some expectations. And in expectations, then we have to think about reality of life. Many of us, we're living in disillusions. We're living people's lives. And this scholar here, John, calls this as drama. He actually refers to the life we live as drama. And in drama, it requires people rehearsing and thinking, what will be my next move? What would I do? How would I do it? When does it come to accomplishment? So this is a planner, someone who's able to plan their life, someone who's able to tell people and say, this is where I want to be in 5 years. I sometimes get scared when I see men who are turning 50, 60, and they're behaving like small boys of 20, 25, or small boys of 15 years, running up and down, doing things that you look at them and start imagining, did they actually miss some stage in life? And of course, that explains some of us who grew up in the countryside. There are a few things. I see some of my colleagues who are slightly older than myself, they're running on skates. And I'm just thinking, at 60 years old, I'm still running skates. When you grew up, skates were not there. Why would I do them today? I have no business. I really have to think there are things that never existed during my time, and therefore they were taken by event. So it means we have to plan our life day by day and interact like actors on a stage. And that will help us to know 2, 3 years down the line, as a man, where do I want to be? And the moment you answer that question correctly, then you have an opportunity to make a difference. So you start living a real life, a life of reality, a life that will make you somebody. Allow me to quote a few people. There was Tim in the house. And so as you think about them, you're telling them, this is Tim. This is so. There is a young man from Uganda. We are excited to have them both. So when you look at this, taking time and listening and think about what can a man achieve, you'll have planned your life. You don't live life by an accident. You don't live life by rehearsal. And we've tried this, and we're now telling the young people that start planning your life. I know young men who have started planning their life, and they know we are the replica of what we do. And we're the replica of what we do because in drama, you know, there's a backdrop that before the play comes on stage, you will realize there's a backstage, which is generally out of the public eye. And the backstage outside the public eye is quite important because it's the one that produces the front stage performance that was prepared for. So as you think about the front stage performance, who people will see, there'll be a lot of things that you'll have gone through as you work in that stage. You don't just become a man today, but you'll have really learned that you have moved forward with a number of things. And at this point, I really want to think about a few things. Examine a recent conversation you had that would depict your expectations. We've already done this. This is where we started. But in a nutshell, if you think about the many things that we do, what are some of the societal expectations? We've already put those things on the platform. The society expects us, we are going to provide. The society expects us in all this. And therefore, I thought we'll do this in terms of what we think about role versus status. When you think about role in the society, what's your role in the society? We'll be coming to that a little bit later. But there's a bit of confusion versus status and role. So role is, these are your demands. These are the things that you're supposed to do. These are things that you can manage to walk through without a problem. But when it comes to the status, today we're looking at people who may not have really succeeded very well in life, but they're living what one would call life that you can't believe it. They are huge houses, they have huge cars, they have huge everything. Talk about anything. A birthday of a child, they buy them a car. Something small. So you're looking at the status and you're thinking, my dad drives this, my mom does this, my grandparents are this. We go for a holiday in Spain. These are status. But when you're man enough, would you go? What would you go for? Of course, the role conflict is huge in the current gender issues. But one of the things that I can really stress on role conflict is you as a man, you take your position and say, this is the role I want to do. I want to be a provider. I want to be a caretaker. I want to be somebody who's reliable. When people come and knock, I interacted with a few people in the community sometime back when we were giving a talk to a group of people, and a gentleman, one of the older ladies was arguing, do you think we still have the boy child? The boy child comes home so tired, has been riding the motorbike the whole day. And so when the young man goes to the house, drank a bit, he's totally gone off. So when there's a knock at the door, who goes to open the door? The girl child. So who is protecting who in this case? The questions can be answered. But government says, all this we're doing, we must do dramatical analysis. This is the drama we talked about, which was first propagated in the year 1959. In 1959, when they talked about this drama analytical system, the three front roles try to think about what is it that you are able to do. Of course, the society expects that you'll have married, you'll have started living a life when you're about 20 years, 20, 25, 30 years. But let's face the facts in a real way. Where is this happening? On equal front, on everyone? Of course, your answer is as good as mine. No. There are many challenges. Some of us, we think about it, we end in one relationship today because we can't manage it because of our socialization. We're daring to our moms. Our moms have never beaten us before. Our moms have never told us you're stupid. So when the girl you're courting tells you a name and says, probably says, Derek, that's being stupid. You're like, what's that? Francis, that's not right. And you're thinking, no one has ever corrected me. How comes this lady is telling me this? Probably saying, Jane, this is not right. I don't like what you're doing. These are the questions that you'll be saying. And you're saying, what the hell are you doing here? And you start thinking, am I still in the right relationship? Am I still playing my role as the head of the family? A head who cannot even buy bread. A head who cannot in the family is no head. A head who cannot live as a role model, there's a problem. Because when the head is doing what the common adage says, drinking wine and preaching water, that is a wrong head. And we can see we end up with a system where we are saying the man is losing it out because they're not living a real life. If you can decide I'm living a real life, then that makes you a complete man in terms of what we'll be expecting from you. However, please read that again. Playing a role of a man. I thought this would be good so that we post on the chat again. We post on the chat. Would you rather be, this is now differentiates between what do you think? Would you rather be a doctor or a dentist? As a man, would you be invisible in a home or be able to read minds? What is it that you really want to do in provision of these particular roles? Would I be a celebrity or just a smart person? People to know that I'm there. When I pass, people appreciate that, oh, Eric has been here. Do I really want to make headlines? Or probably I want to win a Nobel Prize. Who knows? Some of us are headed there. But the question we're asking ourselves tonight, are there things that you can do that can make you a man enough? A man that people look at and appreciate. What is it that is in this in a dentist, not a doctor? Is it the pain from a doctor? Of course, the doctor many times when you go to them, it's just a chart. But when it comes to the dentist, you're thinking, is there anesthesia first? I know David and Kelly are pharmacists. I've not said I want to be a pharmacist or anything. But the most important thing we're asking ourselves with I this. Would I rather be this? You are making decisions now to take up your right role as a man and make decisions as you move forward. I really want to bring this to a close because this is a brainstorming time, and a book I saw. This is Roles of Men and Women: Implications for Families and Societies by Lisa et al. The summary of it, it's saying actually the roles that I'm mentioning in passing, it's becoming increasingly complex, and the gender roles are becoming difficult. When I grew up again, my dad never entered the kitchen. Ask anybody today, if you don't enter the kitchen, you may sleep hungry. What is your role? What do you want to do as a man? Do you want to be firm? Do you want to stay here and do nothing? Do you just want to be a person who's just a celebrity and people appreciate? But for you to provide, for my where I sit, my thinking is that you have to be a person who's reliable, someone who is dependable, someone who can be looked after. The family looks at you and you're loving, you're caring, you're providing, and people know that this is a father, this is my brother, this is my grandpa, and that's the man that the society 21st century runs. It's not a man who is going to complicate himself, a man who you cannot be somebody else, but you can be a person yourself. And this is what I would want to conclude with by saying, need to make sense of interplay between emerging role in the society, because the man that was there in 19th century to 20th century is totally a different man from the man that we have in 21st century. And so you have to make a decision and try to understand, do I want to still stay in the earlier years and lose it out? Because so for me, my humble appeal for men is just to think about what is it that you can achieve as a person. The last thing from the same guy, he says, we move in a world of individuals, achieve as character and become persons. And that's what Goffman says. We are moving in a world as individuals, and therefore man as an individual, you have to take your rightful position. And the rightful position can only be defined in a situation where you're saying, this is me. This is me, Thomas, who is a man who has defined roles, of which the roles you've already given. So in just a summary of what we've looked at, this is what the values that we're looking at. In a society today, who is this man with the characters? The characters that you're looking at, you can see the morals play a center stage. Ethics in our current world, the truth, authenticity, character. You know, character is quite some important thing. A man who is in all dimensions. So as you look at these things, you're thinking, am I actually doing the right thing? What are the values? What is the role of me in what I'm achieving? And this is something that was done in Vienna, and they were saying, youth for life. Who are the youth? Are they, if we were to pick some of these values out, which one are you going to take as your first, most important, valuable value that you can be able to bring to society? Because a man with some of these values can make a whole difference. So I'm not thinking about all the roles one by one, but my talk, I tell it in a way to encourage us to think about as a man, because it's quite debatable. Different communities will have different roles. And therefore, that does not give us a situation where we can just say, we have to do this, we have to do this. But we can be guided by the values. What do we want to do? Are we responsible enough in our community? What's the motivation? What's our working policy? And therefore, when we've worked all these things together, then our role will be able to match it. I stopped charging people when I started teaching in high school. When young people those days could sag their trousers, I was just imagining this is a hell has broken loose. When young people started exchanging with their parents in front of teachers, I thought, would I be able to stand this? But now that I'm a parent today, I look back and say, God give us wisdom, give us these values. Let us be consistent in whatever we do, so that at the end of the day, we become men of integrity. And at that point, I want to leave you with these two guys, because men those days were referred with masculinity. But if you look at this photo here, the girls are the ones, the boy and the girl. The girl seems to have carried it too high, and they're all doing the same thing. So you cannot entirely rely on your masculinity and say, I'm a man, but you have to provide, you have to protect, you have to be out there hunting because the woman is also hunting. At that point, I really want to say thank you. I've really rushed through because I assured David that I'll leave some few minutes just for us to interact. And for us to interact, I just want us to do one more quiz on this. So if I stop sharing this, and then we'll be able to get to David to moderate the next stage. So back to our Mentimeter again. If you didn't log out, let me see whether this will work. Okay. So in one word, just one word now, and the code is the same. In one word, what would you consider to be the key role of the man in a society? One word. After knowing that the man we are looking at is a man of integrity, a leader, wonderful, it's supposed to be a leader, a guide. Thank you. Those are key words that we're looking at. So a leader is becoming huge, so you must lead. And what are some of the qualities of a leader? This is a person who's dependable. This is a person a person who's able to focus. Let's keep going on. 3 people are thinking about this. We're quite a number. We're 16. Leaders taking the lead. Anything else? Anything else that you think that will be huge? Supporter, amazing. I like that. I really like that. Someone who's able to support the family. Someone who's able to support the community. Not just someone who's always crying. Someone who's there and looking at things in a very open way, firm, understanding, and knows this is the right thing I must do. Thank you so much, David, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's been a pleasure. And I believe we've all learned from the wonderful presentation that we've had around the role of a man in the society. And the most important thing for me is the aspect that you've taken time to take us through back into the history in terms of what these sociological theories behind socialization have been and what it's going to mean to us as individuals and young men within the current society. Because at the end of the day, we work within a society and we have to respond to the current circumstances that are around us and how we relate with them, which is very important. And there's no constant or static gender role. Whatever my grandmother and grandfather used to do in the 1890s would not be the same thing that my dad did in the 1960s when he was growing up. And they're not the same values and the same roles that I'm playing at the current moment in 2021. So these are things that are changing. And then one of the critical things that you mentioned as well for us, the people who are here, you have to acknowledge, is the aspect of being grounded on our values, on our morals and integrity. For these values then forms the basis as the guide and the anchor on each and every single thing that we're doing in our own personal lives and personal journeys, because with that then, whatever role that changes, whatever new dimension and new facet of our life that we venture into, we have a moral compass, we have a set of rules and values that are guiding us into performing it better, making it deliver value in that particular society and that particular context where we do live. So thank you for that contribution. And I felt like it was necessary to bring that up as well. So as we get into the questions, one of the most critical bits that I know as young men, when you started asking by what is the role of a man, everybody was talking at being a provider, being financially stable. And that is one thing that is affecting us as young men, because everybody is looking at the money factor. So how do we find a way to segregate the fact that you might not be financially stable to provide for those who expect you to provide for them in that particular context, but you can meet the basics and the bare minimum of what would be needed? How do you respond to that? Because one of the things that happens is when the pressure is too much in a society that expects so much money from you and you're not able to get it through the normal ethical means, you look for alternatives. And that is one thing that I know have lost most of our men, and some are still getting lost in that line. So how do we set the barrier at that point and see this is not where I'm heading into? And how do we build it as a culture in us? Yes, Eric. You're on mute.
Thank you, David. I missed that a bit.
Yes, I was just asking, in
Yes.
terms of one thing that you mentioned is in terms of the finances, knowing the
Yes.
difference between your role and your status in the society. But at times there are roles that are dependent on your status. Being able to provide financially, it means you must have the finances. How do
Yes.
you get to a point that you know I can balance and perform my roles, even if I'm not able to provide what the society would expect of me, I'm still able to perform and be a man in that context?
Thank
How
you,
do you
David.
draw the line here?
Yeah, that's a very good question in terms of finances. Uh, in most cases, the way I look at it, our role as men does not really have to be something that we maybe this. Uh, our role doesn't have to mean that we we should go outside our finances. So this when we're talking, one of the things you read on my profile is that I do mentorship at the Chandaria Center where we do the innovation entrepreneurship. And I teach a lot on customer care and finances. What we do in finances, we say, as much as you're supposed to provide, try as much as possible to live within your means. When you go to the market, for example, let's take an example. If you go to the supermarket, one cabbage might be costing about 120. But I know my finances may not lead me to the supermarket. The same cabbage, if I go to the open market, I could get it at 20 shillings. So it's finding value for money helps you to play your role as a man in the society. And then as you think about finding value for your money, you will also be trying to understand what expenditures, because if I'm driving, for example, a Vitz, and I see my friend start tomorrow driving probably a Subaru, would I go for it just because go for a bigger loan, yet I'm not able to service? So my answer to that is we live within our means and play a role. When our children, for example, push us to take them to better schools like their peers, we also look at ourselves and say, do I actually, would I be able to do this? If you're not able to do that, the first thing I always encourage is that let's be honest with ourselves. When we're honest with ourselves, then we're able to meet our obligations as men without compromising any other person. I think that way it becomes much, much easier.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much for that. Looking at it from the point of not compromising and finding value for that money. Because once you find the value for the money, you can know what you're investing in and how you're using that money in terms of such kind of expenses, which is a good perspective on it as well. And then another topic that is very critical as well, and you alluded to it during your presentation, you find a certain point, generally when you get to 25 years, people are expecting you to start getting married, getting a family. But at the same time, getting married and having a family comes with responsibilities and expectations on you at the same time. And then you find that how does a man in the current context get to respond to such kind of pressures from the society? And how do you still stand your ground?
Thank you, David. Again, that's a very nice and valid question. I must say I'm a typical example of that. I'm a real typical example. This I'll talk from experience. And when I left university, first I worked in Nairobi for 2 years. And I didn't think about anything close to so my college mates, my peers went in, and when we met, they'll tease around me and tell me, Eric, what are you doing? This is my son, this is my daughter, and I'm just thinking, what the hell is this? How does it? So it's only down to me, and when I joined the teaching profession, I visited my parents, and by the way, the society is tough. It's tough. You have to stand your ground. I have to confirm my own dad organized for a woman in her school to go to visit the lady. I told my dad, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. When it comes to the time for me to marry, I'll marry. So this is from my own personal experience. So you have to start. I stood my ground. It took me another 5 good years after I talked to my dad with the organization, with one of the lady teachers who was teaching in our school, because he insisted I should meet the girl. And I told I'm not going that direction. Create time, interact with the people you know, and when the right time comes, you actually, people support you. But if you run into peer pressure, in most cases, you could actually have seen quite a number of people who marry today and tomorrow they're out. In the news last week, I think I read an article where the lady killed the man. They got married, and the man was killed at night. And the lady says the man never loved her. So why would you go up to the marriage stage and there's no love? These are some of the organizations probably that have been organized, who've been pushed in a relationship, and so there's no love after all. But when you develop it from the ground, it makes sense. Something that men are facing a lot of trouble again is the choices, because the women, a number of them at the same age with the men, they become desperate. So you kind of face lots of women coming on your side, giving things, showing you some kind of temptation. Allow me to use temptation. But you have to stand firm and know what is it that you want. If there's nothing in this woman that you love, please don't fall in the trap, because finally that marriage will not last. It may be convenient for 2, 3 because she came and you found it convenient that you start moving on. But finally, I can tell you guys, it will not work. Thank you. Just stand firm. I think standing firm is the bottom line. And know that this, but also as you stand firm, don't put your yardstick too high and say, kama mwanamke hana PhD, kama sio pharmacist kama mimi, kama sio daktari kama mimi, uko siendi. Those can easily make you then end up in a wrong relationship again, because you are thinking, kama mwanamke sio wa kanisa yangu, siendi. These are things that make a lot of sense. But somehow standing firm with some kind of a to-do list, you're saying tick box, and these are things that you can actually work with. Yeah. Thank you, David. I don't know whether that complicates the issue, but I'm an experience. I went through that and I managed. Now my firstborn daughter has done Form 4. My colleagues, their daughters are working.
It's good enough. Actually, it's relatable in terms of what I've heard from stories, what I've seen happening around as well. These are things that are happening. And at times it's a matter of just giving into the pressures of the society. So that is where we now need to get firm. And the other thing that happens is a matter of convenience. This lady has been part of your life and you feel like, well, she's been here, so why not? Yeah. But at the same time, she's been there. Every other thing, probably you can be walking across the road. Every time you pass by a ditch, it doesn't mean that you swim in that ditch. You need to go to a swimming pool to swim. Yeah. So if it has been there, then do you go into swimming into the ditches? So it's a matter of setting your standards and knowing what you're going with and what you are not going to accept or even compromise on. And that is a very, very critical bit as well. So thank you for that. So now I'll take questions from the participants. Whoever has a question, you can raise your hand. I'll give you the chance. As we finalize, we're getting towards the end of the session. Any question, any comments? You're free to speak up. Derek, yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Masika, for the nice presentation. I think I've learned a lot in terms of the way we are supposed to act as leaders as men, but I had a few concerns that I would like for you to give an opinion. For example, especially due to the rise of the short of mentors in the political sphere and also in the celebrity sector in Kenya as well. What advice would you give, like, for example, an undergraduate student or a high school student who is asking you, which direction should I take? Should you tell him, like, go and do a professional course whereby you can be somebody important in the world, or do you just tell him to go and just try to figure out life for himself? Do you guide him to a specific a way of thinking, or do you just tell him to open up his or her own mind? And if you tell him to open his or her own mind, you risk exposing him to the current culture that we're experiencing in the country. So far, so good. And this is something that I've been experiencing personally. And then the second one, as a lecturer in the university, I would like to get an opinion about the current trend that we are seeing, whereby the ladies are kind of taking the stage in terms of the people that are graduating the university. You're seeing that the boy children are kind of abandoning or maybe getting distracted along the way during their study period. What do you think could be the solution, and the causes first and then the solution? Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Derek. Those are two wonderful concerns. I'll try to give my opinion. On your first concern, I'm just thinking the issue of where we find ourselves with advice in terms of professional or not professional. I'm one proponent of, even when in class, like yesterday when I was teaching the pharmacy students, I teach pharmacy students chemistry, it was reminding them, because we're discussing the entropy and just think about how the entropy is a disorder and order. So I was asking them, what do they think about the current world philosophy? Yesterday in the news, there were leaders who are fighting, and my daughter goes like, "Dad, that's your country. People are just so crude. Adults fight in public." And so those examples I'm giving, they are quite recent, and they really resonate with your worries. So that tells you that you're not the only one worried about who are the role model for us. But out of the many role models that we are missing, you'll find in a sea, you'll always find something small remaining. So there will be a remnant. The Bible talks about the remnant. And so this remnant is what we really want to pick out. I always use an example, especially in our country, we have a problem. People end up in sports, do not do anything professional. So by the time they get 35, they can't play anymore. You'll have seen on the TV how our players, the last case was this guy who died. Was it Kadengo or somebody who died last time? I think it was, and we've also had people on the TV. You've seen some of the celebrities that come on the TV, Ojuang and the team, when this apathy in terms of the investment. So someone starts a career in skates, a career in football, and they stop at that point. That's not my position. Even in the countryside, when I'm giving talks to the community, I remind people in the field, please don't be contented with playing football. Do something professional. I know the world today in our country doesn't have good role models, because the rich guys are actually, in most cases, they have indoctrinated in us an attitude that stealing is the way. You are poor today, tomorrow you are rich. Look at the cases of Kemsa, where people have been talking, I prayed and God sent me and I got 42 in the morning. I believe in the power of prayer, but such prayer, friends, I don't think I agree with such a prayer. You cannot do that. A prayer where you don't know the signature to your account, we don't mock God like that. So take a career in life and you'll be comfortable. In the UK, even people who play on the street, you find some of them are well qualified. Some of my colleagues who prefer to go and teach a primary school. They have a PhD. But because their passion is good to pass the knowledge, they start in a kindergarten and they are comfortable with that. So have a career in life. I always tell also young people, don't worry about the role model in your environment. Now we have lots of materials out there. Go on the YouTube. Look at the TED Talks. I don't know how many of you look at the TED Talks. Anyone who's been able to look at the TED Talks, the it's called TED Talks. They are powerful speeches. How you can even moderate, like I like how David's moderating this. These are things that you can learn from YouTube. And I remember Yekon when he first won the javelin. The first thing he was asked, how did he manage it? He said, my first teacher was YouTube. I look at YouTube and I see how this thing is being thrown, and I became a scholar in terms of throwing the machine. So look for you'll never miss it. Look for a role model out there. Look for them. They are there. It's only that we are crossed in the environment. I've also told young people in the university, like especially KU I teach, there are so many people who are possessed. If I went to KU for undergraduate, I have to do master's, PhD, teach in KU. Who said that? You go out there, go to another university, see how things are done. That makes sense. To your second question about the graduating years, there's a problem. The girl child seems to be quite resilient. They are quite, when I teach the girls and the boys in the classes I teach, you'll quickly find the young men are changing a lot into, you'll find, sometimes I refer to them, you have funny hair, you have this, but these are things that help them to really think about what they're doing. So the young man, remember when I started talking about this, which was echoed by David again, is the socialization. Quite a number of our young boys have been, allow me to use the broken English, mis-socialized. They have not been socialized into being men. They have been socialized into some other thing that is not a man in themselves. So they look at themselves, they're in what we call autopilot mode. Autopilot mode is where you don't even think about anything. You go somewhere and you find Michael's here. Do you want us to have a drink? Yes. You move to the next place, you find Manola and you say, do you want to have a drink? You go. So it's like, and in my university where you read, University of Nottingham, we had 23 hostels. And in these 23 hostels, the young people used to have a game called 23 a night. A 23 a night was a game. And 23 a night was a very simple business. So these young people will meet in the student center. And you only needed to take one beer as a team. Each person is taking one. And you take all the 23 hostels, including the student center. So they'll count who is the winner. The last standing is the one who takes the maximum. And that guy is rewarded when they wake up in the following day. So some of them will fall in a particular hostel and they'll stay there up to the morning. And it's strangely enough, there are some who will take 23 and they'll survive. I wonder how. So the young person has been mis-socialized to think they are just there. They don't have to think about anything. So just go on, do things, and they are so scared of doing anything. And that is my take. If the young man can re-socialize themselves, start thinking about themselves as a man, start taking our role as men in a community. Not the man that, of course, David referred to the 1980s, 1800s. These are totally different men. They had powers. These guys will stand, my dad will look at my eyes and I know what they're saying. Now I look at my son's eye, he looks at me and dad, what's your problem? That's the first question he asked me. I wouldn't, even now, can't ask my dad what's his problem. But my son asked me. So these are things that we have to accept. The society is different. I think I can talk about it forever. Allow me to stop at that point. I don't know whether that, Derek, helps you to think through, but those are my opinion.
Yeah, I think I like the point about even though they might want to pursue other careers, they should get something professional on the side. At least it will keep them developing their mind. And also the issue of autopiloting is a good idea that I have never thought about before, but it seems that it has been running in my mind unconsciously because this is something that happens definitely in universities. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for that. question, Eric, and thank you so much, Eric, for your response. And in terms of the first question, the aspect is in exposure. Because unless you see what's happening out there, you'll never know who to learn from and how to learn from them. When you talked about the javelin guy, Diego, it's a matter of being exposed to the right information and getting how to use it the best way you can. And we have so much access to resources. And that's also the difference among the people we've gone into the university. When you compare yourself to the people who you left in the village, there's a difference. And when you get back there, you are the kind of exposure that you need to get there. Then in the university, the aspect of autopiloting, we need kind of a resocialization, a reculturing moment. And that is one bit that we're looking at. How do we create a different culture? How do we reculture the society so that we get better people with values, better people with morals, better people who are looking at what would be the ultimate outcome of my actions. And I think actually just to give a contribution on the last question that you asked, Derek, when you look at the universities, you in university, you're supposed to be learning at that particular point and looking at what future are you hoping for yourself. The ladies in cultural empowerment has been focused on academic professional development is the way, and they've taken it up as the way. For us men, most of us have been kind of sidetracked with the focus on money rather than how to make that money. So we go out to looking for money, even if not looking for money, we go out to look rich, to look like we have money. But at the same time, we fail to build the basic core on how we get to that point. And I think that would be a contribution on some of the challenges that we're having. And we need that resocialization, as Eric Masika has recommended. And we need to look at it not only from the point of those who are in the university, and not only from those who are not part of this. We are part of the discussion. What are we not doing right as individuals? What am I not doing right as David? Can I make amends on that? Then what am I seeing happening among those people within my environment? I have Derek around, I have Michael around, I have Kelly, I have Alpha. These are people within my environment. What are they not doing right that I can contribute to help them make better? Then we make a difference as we move as a team. And I think those are some of the critical bits that we can pick up from here. And we can deliberately and intentionally make a commitment to make adjustments, and we move from there. I'll give the last chance. Anybody who has a question, the last chance, then we close up the meeting. If there's anyone, because we're already 10 minutes past the standard time that we are to cover. If there's none, I'll take this moment to give you the last moment to give your final remarks, Eric. Then we close the session.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate, I'm greatly humbled that this was an opportunity. Maybe you just reiterate what you said again. Some of these programs like what David and Claire are doing, Ryculture is such a huge culturalization and talking about real things that affect men and women in the current society. Yeah, I'm really proud that you guys have taken an initiative to do this. God bless you. And these are the fruits you'll be able to get now, because if you think about guys who fought for independence in this country, some of them never enjoyed a single day of independence. People planted the mango tree 20 years ago. Some of them never enjoyed the mango tree. But what you're doing is such an amazing and encouraging platform where young people will now start rethinking about themselves. The issue is that when we're in autopilot mode, in most cases, we have no time to pause and think for alternatives. But if we can pause and think as men, then you'll find that our journey starts again. Remember, the purpose is not reinventing the wheel. The purpose is following in the structures and doing what's rightly ours as men. Being leaders, being men of integrity, being people that people can depend on, that people can look and say, I can call David at this time and I'll have a solution. But I call David at 10 and the guy said, oh, it doesn't make sense. You can't depend on someone. So becoming men who are dependable, men who can make a difference. And thank you so much. God bless you all. And for the team, for the participants, thank you for coming. And it was great time of interaction. Those who asked questions, I'm sure we'll be able to catch up. If there are questions that you still have, if you send them through David and they are sent to me, I'm happy to respond to the questions. Otherwise, God bless you and have a blessed night. as we look forward to interacting in future. Thank you. Over to you, David.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's been a pleasure hosting you as well. The insights that you've shared, the contribution that we've gotten from you, they are very critical. And my hope and my only hope is that the participants who've been part of the session, you'll pick something from here, you'll put it into practice in your own life. And for the people you interact with, please share the insights and the inspiration and the knowledge that you've gained from here. Other than that, the recording will be made available on our YouTube channel. So feel free to check our YouTube channel, that is Ryculture Health and Social Innovation. Our social media handles as well has it: Facebook at Ryculture Health, Twitter at Ryculture Health, Instagram at Ryculture_health. So all the social media pages where we operate, we have access to content, and you'll have access to all the materials that are there. Let's engage, let's continue moving together. And just to let you know, the Mantalk session is always on the fourth Wednesday of every month, the last Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday, that is. Then other than the Mantalk session, we have the Ladies Talk Forum, which is always on the second Wednesday of every month. So these are conversations where our focus is on building and nurturing resilient young men and women by drawing on experiences and insights from people who have walked the journey before us. So for the Ladies Talk, mostly we host ladies and women who've made it in their professional, their personal lives, and they're willing to share those insights. For the Man Talk, we build men who have experience, as you've seen, the insight that we've gotten from Eric today, and we nurture other people by learning from what they've done, learning from what they've seen, and making a difference moving forward together. Thank you so much. And as we leave this session, have a great night and protect yourself as much as possible, because COVID is still here with us, and we have to live and tell a story post-COVID as we work towards a better society. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much. I have to log out and look for dinner. So you guys enjoy your dinner, those who are not eaten.